Hello everyone, it's me, OneGamer54, back in video. Today, we're gonna continue off with a video. That's right, we're gonna continue off with more reactions, and this time we're gonna be watching Shipwrecked 64 by Game Theory. Now, unlike any others, honestly, this is the first game I actually know about. I actually know about Shipwrecked 64, so unless we're gonna be talking about a new one, I'm pretty sure I know what's just gonna happen. So, yeah, I figured why not? Let's get to it, shall we? I don't think I got anything else to say, so let's do it.
Hello Internet,
There we go.
welcome to Game Theory, the show that's not afraid to admit when it's all washed up. On a video game
Wow.
full of lore, that is. Because I'm finally getting around to talking about the ARG that blew every other ARG I worked on out of the water. We would have probably talked about this sooner, but it came out on January 1st, and we were a little busy here at Theorist. So after 5 months, I figured it was high time we take a look at the difficult and disturbing game that took the internet by storm, Shipwrecked 64. Now, if this is your first time seeing this game, you might think it's going to be similar to other lost video games we've covered in the past, like Petscop, where we watch found footage of someone else playing the game and see the ARG story unfold before us. But not this time, friends, because this is a game you can actually play for yourselves. That's right, this game puts you in the driver's seat and gives you the opportunity to go around and find the secrets yourself. And there are a bunch to find. But to get them, you have to solve some of the toughest puzzles I've ever encountered. And sometimes you even have to fight the most basic of gamer instincts. You have to lose. If you do that, you are rewarded with the thing that we all crave. Lore about a company fallen on hard times, one man's desperate attempts to save his wife, and one of the most brutal mascot killers the internet has ever seen. This is truly one of the most
He's not kidding with brutal, alright? Like, think of what, like, I don't care what people says, okay? Listen, I know William Afton is terrible. I mean, what he did to the kids, terrible. But at least we don't actually see it. We don't see the missing kid incident. What you're about to see, I'm not gonna lie, this video will probably not be suitable for children, so we're just gonna leave it there. So if any kids are watching this video, this might be the time to get out the video now and just wait until I release a video. Who am I kidding? The kids need to know. Let's do this.
Disturbing and outright horrifying game experiences the internet has to offer, but it's also the most fun I've had solving an ARG in a long time. So let's set sail together, loyal theorists, as we go through the puzzles, solutions, and story of Shipwrecked 64.
Y'all not ready.
We're immediately given a choice. Well, kinda. We can see that there are two versions of this game. One from 2023, which is a recreated version of the original Shipwreck game for the Nintendo 64.
I didn't know that.
There's a locked version that appears to be that original game, the one that was removed from store shelves. However, to unlock that version, we need to complete the 2023 version. So, off we go. We take on the role of Bucky Beaver and start the game shipwrecked on an island. No surprise there. We are then tasked with finding our crew and rebuilding our boat. The bad news is, you only have 5 days to do it, as a volcano is due to erupt and destroy the whole island. So, best get cracking. By exploring the island, you'll find your crew one by one, and they'll ask you to complete a mini-game to free them from the island's inhabitants and rejoin your crew. Walter Walrus needs you to platform your way to switches to free your second boat. Just don't move when the lights go out. Olive Otter asks you to collect 30 coconuts within the time limit, and Giovanni Goose needs you to stop the ovens from catching fire. You can also find the chief of the island, Chief Wolf, who gives you a mini-game to rebuild your boat. Each time you play a mini-game, time passes, so be quick about it. You can end the game in one of 4 ways. You can escape the island with or without your crew, or you can choose to stay and either wait for the clock to run out, killing everyone, or explore the volcano, finding a barge that will not only save your crew, but all the inhabitants of the island. However, the ending you choose doesn't really matter, because by getting any ending, you unlock the thing we're really after, the 1997 version of Shipwrecked 64. When you start a new game and select this version, we are given a warning that it is not for the faint of heart, and that it's unaltered from its initial release. If that's not an invitation, I don't know what is. This is where the...
saying that it's not for the faint of heart, oh boy. They are correct. It is not for the faint of heart. Oh boy.
true nature of this game starts to appear. Because while on the surface it seems to be the same game, something is off about it. There are suddenly locked doors with what appears to be gibberish written on the signs next to them. But we're theorists. Nothing in these games is just gibberish.
Never.
This is a substitution cipher, but it's not like one that we've used in the past. Essentially, it involves swapping letters back and forth to create a new phrase. A equals B, B equals A, C equals D, D equals C, and so on. Deciphering the 3 signs gives you the codes layer 2, room 1, layer 2, room 2, and layer 2, room 3. This doesn't mean a whole lot for us, but if you stand around for too long trying to figure it out, you'll see there's more wrong with this version of the game than a few misspelled signs. 1015.
Oh boy.
From here, you can go through and play the rest of the game as normal, win the mini-games and get off the island.
Yep.
But where's the fun in that? There are clearly secrets to find, so what do we need to do? Well, it starts by losing. That's right, if you lose each of the mini-games, things begin to fall apart. Each time you fail, the mini-game gets harder and harder to beat. And with each time that happens, we are treated to some disturbing clips that begin to hint at what this game's lore is. Walter's mini-game shows us a clip of someone wearing a costume of Bucky, looking down at something with a bunch of squelching noises in the background. May not be able to see what's happening, but our minds can pretty much fill in the gaps, especially with an indie horror game. But this isn't the only secret Walter's game is hiding. Near the final switch, you're meant to go through this door and then out the other side. But if you instead jump over to the other side and then try to re-enter the door from the wrong side, you suddenly find yourself in a long corridor with a button at the end that plays a clip from a man named Mark Mullins.
She hasn't been acting right. No one around has been acting right lately. I took her to the hospital, but I walked down on my own. They said that she's going to be there for a while.
He's taking someone to hospital, which is useful to bear in mind, but the most notable thing right now is that he mentioned no one has been acting right lately. Could this be referring to the Bucky we just saw? Maybe Mark noticed Bucky's weird behavior before whatever happened in that squelchy video. It's hard to say, but Bucky does certainly continue to get more and more unhinged as time goes on.
Yeah,
when you get
he
to
is.
Olivia's section, it's split into 2 parts. In the penultimate failed attempt, we can hear an audio recording from a woman titled Olivia's Last Phone Call.
You showed up at the door again. I don't know what
Oh no, here goes.
Olivia complains about him showing up again, only for Bucky to once again appear, banging to be heard, and the audio going quiet. Normally, this is where I'd start theorizing about exactly what's happening here, but Olive's second section does that for us. You're back in the same room, but if you parkour off the walls, you'll find Olive face down in the water, a trail of blood behind her, and another Bucky staring down at her. Bucky, this evil Bucky, killed this woman, Olivia, represented by Olive, and dragged her body to the lake. Now, I thought that was pretty dark, but nothing could have prepared me for failing Giovanni Goose's game, because after a couple of failed attempts, Giovanni stops being interactable. You can try, but nothing happens. And then...
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, we had to blur a lot of that for YouTube. So, if you were wondering, that is a man having his head bashed against a microwave, dunked in a deep fat fryer by Bucky. It is brutal. Really not what I or anyone expected when playing this game for the first time.
Nope. I'm not gonna lie. William, you might be beat. I don't think we ever seen you doing something like that at all.
Oh my god! Oh, jeez! So, what on earth is going on here?
Oh, come on!
Well, if you break out of bounds through this glitchy wall during the Giovanni minigame, you can find a single oven engulfed in flames. Giovanni Goose laying on top of it. It seems to be a recreation of the gruesome scene we just witnessed, with Giovanni Goose taking the place of the human whose head was shoved in the deep fryer. With these characters being mascot costumes, it's possible that the guy we're seeing is actually Giovanni's human performer, and he was brutally murdered by whoever was playing Bucky. This would also confirm that the dead version of Olive we see floating in the river was another recreated scene. And while we don't know what happened to Walter's performer, Bucky standing over him with squelching noises playing, it doesn't give me the best confidence he's okay. That brutal clip we just saw also gives us a date, 1990. 1990. But this game came out in 1997, meaning the company would have had to have covered all of this up for 7 years. Is that why these videos are present in the game? To expose the company that the Steam page tells us is known as Broadside Studios? But if that's the case, who's trying to expose them and why? For that, we need to go to this weird glitch you can find in the living quarters area after you fail the minigames. Walk into the glitching wall texture and you'll find yourself face to face with Chief Wolf once again. Only it's not Chief Wolf. The name that pops up on screen is Connor. At first I wondered if Connor was another victim of Bucky's, the actor for Chief Wolf, but then I read their dialogue and it is strange. They talk about polygons working together to create an illusion and go on to say that they made all of this. Is Connor the game's developer? It's the only thing that would make sense with this kind of dialogue. And there's been plenty of indie horror games with devs trapped in their own games before. Except, unlike most of those other game devs, Connor doesn't seem to be interested in escaping. They're just admiring their work, like they're proud of it, gruesome videos and all. Considering how hard this character is to find, I have a feeling this is more like a self-insert NPC, assigned to the player early on from the dev that they're heading in the right direction. Okay, so we have an idea of who did this, but we still don't know why he felt the need to turn against Broadside. So let's keep digging. Remember those locked doors I pointed out earlier? The ones with the sign saying Layer 2, Room 1. Well, once you completely fail each minigame, those locked doors become unlocked and allow you to travel to a deeper second layer of the game, which I guess explains the Layer 2 thing. Now, I'm not going to run through how to do every little puzzle in each of these next rooms, or for the entirety of this game for that matter. There are so many puzzles that this would be an hour-long video if I were to explain each one step by step. Not every puzzle has lore significance either, and finally, I actually think it's just fun to leave some mystery for you guys so that you can go and play this for yourselves. I promise you, it's well worth it. But what I do want to do is to explain the primary puzzles that you need to solve to progress, because I have never seen ciphers like this used before, and this won't be the last time they get used either. So if you go into Walter's door, you'll eventually come across a room with a number of cabins and an audio player on the wall. It's labeled with code is RXBC, and playing it gives you a string of words. These words are part of the phonetic alphabet: Romeo, X-ray, Bravo, and Charlie. And look at that, those words line up with the 4 letters of the code label. But every keypad in the game is a 4-number code, not letters. So how does that work? Well, you have to take the number of times each word is said to get the number for each letter. In this case, Romeo is said 6 times, X-ray twice, Bravo twice, and Charlie 4 times. 6, 2, 2, 4. That will unlock the next part of your path. The second kind of puzzle is found through Olive's door. In one of the rooms is a recorder playing the song Hot Cross Buns, and on the wall it says code is ECDC. If you explore a little, you'll find another recorder that talks about downloading sheet music, and that is exactly what you have to do here. Look at the sheet music for Hot Cross Buns, count the number of times the notes E, C, and D are used, and bam, that's your code. I told you these ciphers were clever. But it's Giovanni's door that is the most interesting. Inside is a small theater, which, if you stop and look at the screen, you'll see our 4 mascot friends, except they look nightmarish. I initially wondered if these were monster versions and that maybe this was the Bucky that killed the other 3, but we saw from earlier that the Bucky looked pretty normal when he attacked. Suit mode. I'm not entirely sure what to make of this right now. Nevertheless, we must carry on to the next room, a red dining hall, and after some puzzles, an art gallery. In the gallery, there is a keypad on the wall that once again requires a 4-number code to unlock. Next to it, you can see banners of 4 colors in order: red, blue, blue, green. And if you paid attention to the room, you'll notice all the paintings are colored, and some of them have numbers on them. Red is 8, blue is 3, and green is 9. Those numbers remain the same throughout the game, so do take note. But once you get through the hallway, you'll start to hear something. I like that they're just giving us the lore dump. That is exactly what they're doing, Matt. This audio gives you all the backstory on Broadside Animation that we could possibly need to know. We learn of a man named Rex, an artist that struggled to find success, but eventually, in the 1940s, his first character, a rabbit, suddenly took off, only for him to lose the rights to that character, eventually leading to the creation of Bucky Beaver. If this sounds familiar, it should. It's exactly the same thing as what happened to Walt Disney and Oswald the and the rise of arguably...
We just did a reaction video about Indigo Park, and we kind of already felt and expected that Indigo Park was supposed to be like 1-to-1 with Disney. In fact, I'm pretty sure everyone and their mamas know that way in the back there was a video. Game Theory did a video about, Bendy and the Ink Machine back when, when chapter 1 and 2 were just released, and we already knew that that Joey Drew was somewhat of a parallel to, to one of the competitors, Walt Disney. So dang, a lot of people been trying to go after Walt Disney's success as of late. But anyways, I digress. Continue.
Most famous cartoon character of all time, Mickey Mouse. And just like good old Disney, after a lot of success with this new cast of characters, eventually they would open up a theme park called Studio Grounds. However, this recording offhandedly mentions a previous park that Studio Grounds is based on, one located on an island that you could only travel to by boat. To get to this point in the game, we've traveled through kitchens, dining rooms, beach huts, pools, theaters, all things that would make sense at an island theme park. It's not just the murders that are being recreated inside this game. This whole place is a recreation of that original theme park, Broadside Beach. Beyond the corridor is a museum and a switch. Hit it and we end up in a new hub room. Solve the puzzles and we find a computer with a switch that opens up a browser tab showing us a website for a company called Cogware Games. This About Us page tells us about the employees, Elizabeth, Harry, and Connor. Looks like we were right about Connor being the dev of this game. These guys talk about their desire to pursue 3D graphics as well as adult humor and, quote, some edge. Yeah, I think you might have overshot that one, guys. Moving forward, though, the tone suddenly shifts. On the walls are drawings of a game of Hangman with most of the name Brandon filling in the spaces. Text warning us to stop, and a drawing of Bucky with his third eye open. Something tells me going down here is going to start connecting a lot of dots for us. We're going to see things as they really are. And so, in search of that sweet, sweet lore, we continue to venture down into layer 3. Here, the world is dark. We're given a single candle and a tape recorder. On it, someone is describing the death we saw played out with the character Olive back on layer 1. Someone in a Bucky costume dragging a woman to the water and drowning her in the lake, confirming that what we've been seeing in the game are recreations of real-life events. We have to continue on until we reach a computer, and it has a lot to say. The horrors that are to come, the concept of the layers we find ourselves in, and the ciphers we have been solving. The substitution cipher is a language known as Beaver Scratch. The alphabet puzzle is called a Shakespeare cipher, the music puzzle is a Mozart cipher, and the picture puzzle is a Picasso cipher. While this information is certainly useful, I feel like it would have been more useful, you know, a layer ago when I was banging my head against the wall trying to figure out how they worked. But no matter. We're here now and we must go forth exploring the 3 doors available in order to move on. Technically, you can actually only explore 2 doors, but there are important audio recordings in each one, so of course I've checked them all out. 2 of them come from Connor, who describes how progress for the game is going, describing areas and characters from Shipwrecked 64, and how they're going to be presenting to someone called Mark later. Oh, Mark, the guy from that audio tape we heard earlier, the one with the terminally ill partner. If Cogware Games is working on a Broadside game and they're going to be presenting to Mark later, that would mean that Mark is likely a higher up at Broadside. But based on this third recording we get from Connor, it seems like he's not the easiest guy to work with.
Oh, come on.
Company's championship will be held at easiest guy to work with.
Heart and soul into it, but is that even enough? His standards must be set astronomically high. Plus, after the thing I found, I just gotta be honest. I feel so much less safe around that bed.
Once again, Connor is leaving a breadcrumb trail to reveal to us the truth about what happened and the company behind it all. It seems like Connor found the footage of these deaths, the ones that we've been witnessing. I mean, I wouldn't feel safe around a guy that lets monsters like this run loose, would you? Yet he also seems to still be willing to work with Mark. He's not acting like he wants to expose the truth he's found. So what changed for him to do so later? Oh, and speaking of monster, this particular room offers us insight into one of the characters we've not been able to identify, Bucky himself.
Oh,
so
God.
We found the victims, the devs of the game, and Mark. But the serial killer Bucky has remained a mystery.
Don't do that. I was scared. Why did it caught me off guard? Why you do that? Just came out of nowhere. The animation was so fluid. I was like, oh, heck no. I was about to punch my own tablet.
However, after looking at this wall, I believe we finally have a name. On the wall, we see the words, "Who are you?" along with a drawing that will look familiar to those of you who cleared the puzzles in Walter's Waterway. It's a statue of Bucky. There's also 7 letters missing, just like the ones we saw earlier in the hallway that spell out the name Brandon. Brandon is the name of the guy inside the costume, the one that was acting strange and lashed out to his co-stars. This is where the gameplay gets a lot harder, because now we're being attacked by monster versions of the 4 4 major mascots that we saw in the glitchy footage. Turns out these are known as
Dwellers.
and they are horrifying. But regardless of this new threat, we are still on the hunt for lore, and it is everywhere on this floor. If you look at the walls very carefully while you're solving puzzles, you'll find notes from Cogware Games, and these blow a massive
I'm just scared that it's gonna pop out of nowhere. The
Why
random
not?
jump scares. I'm ready.
Dozens of these notes around the level, but after just a couple, you start to get the picture. I was at the offices last night. I had brought a drive with me. It contained our presentation for Broadside. I didn't grab the drive on the way out. When I slid my drive into the slot, nothing I included was there, but instead a branching web of folders, the contents of which were repulsive. Many different folders, so many names, so many labels, so many mistakes. It's sickening. Folders dedicated to old cartoons, but not just that, cover-ups too. A little girl was crushed in the squirrel cruise, quite literally, head caught between the track and the boats. I saw the pictures. It's as bad as you think. Oh, and it gets worse.
No.
So much worse. Not only have guests died, but employees have too. Before Studio Grounds, they owned an entire island. And on that island, at the very least, there were 3 deaths. Connor definitely saw the horrifying footage that we've seen. The 3 employee deaths that happened on an island resort owned by Broadside. But Cogware Games decided to recreate murders and all. But if you keep going and complete the various Picasso and Mozart ciphers, as well as a few code-based puzzles that are lying around, and then you collect the batteries for the in-game computer, we are actually treated to a zip folder full of at least some of the files that the notes mention. We have 3 folders named Olivia, Nathan, and Gary. Olivia's folder contains Olive's character model, pictures of her as a human and in costume, and the audio recordings we've heard, as well as this note that once again confirms that what we've witnessed in the game is 100% a recreation of what happened that night. By checking Gary's folder, we can also find the footage that we've already seen, as well as the aftermath of his corpse dumped in the deep fryer. Gary was Giovanni's actor, which leaves Nathan as Walter's actor, and in his folder we finally see what was missing from the mysterious squelchy clip we heard earlier. Bucky walked over to him and beat him to death with a chair. Yeah, it was never going to be good, was it? And yet,
No,
the
it was
question
never.
remains, why give this to us? Why expose Broadside like this? I mean, sure, the company is clearly not a good company, but is that enough motivation? Connor found these files, but still seemed to be willing to work with Mark on this game. This is also an official game after all. Broadside were paying for this, so why risk it? Well, before you finish the plaza, there is one audio recording that shines some light on this, and it's from our friend Mark.
The entire brand's been going down the drain. The best option we got is to cut the game studio we've hired. I'm going to schedule a meeting with them, and if they don't have exactly what they promised, we cut them off. I'm throwing the exact same amount of money I'm paying for Harley's medical bills into this game studio!
Broadside.
All right, chill, my
money,
boy,
which is
chill.
unsurprising when you're busy, covering up murders, running TV shows, theme parks, and your own freaking private island. Plus, this person, Harley, seems to be the loved one that Mark mentioned earlier in the audio log. The
In the
one that's going to be in
hospital,
hospital for a long time. He's also having to pay for those medical bills. And so, the best plan of action is for him to cut all funding to the video game. Or so he thinks. For a small indie studio, losing a deal like this could cause them to completely go under. If that happens, they'd likely want revenge, especially if they happen to stumble across a bunch of files that reveal to them the cover-ups and murders that the company had committed. And once we leave Layer 3, that is exactly what we see play out. Layer 4 to start with is essentially a tech demo, but use the elevator to descend into the sewers and you'll once again face a gamer's worst nightmare. Not scary monsters, no, we love that stuff. Instead, you once again have to lose by getting caught by the dwellers, landing yourself in a jail cell, but also giving yourself access to a new area.
First on the first person?
No!
No!
One titled Devlog Panic and the other Resolution.
Toss the script. Toss the script. It's done. It's over. I can't even lie to myself on this recording. It went horribly. All that work, all for nothing. It's only a matter of time till I get their 2-week notices on my desk. Change of plans. Liz has already done everything she needed to. Harry's done. Well, enough. I'm taking the reins now. I'm completing this on my own. No help, no influence from Broadside, Mark, or any of those disgusting I was worried about what he'd do to me. By the time I'm done with him, he will regret the day he first uttered my name.
Connor was blindsided by Mark's decision. He was ready to go in with a full presentation, only to be completely shut down and cut off from the project. Now, he's mad. Mad enough that he's going to make Mark regret everything by outing Broadside's awful practices, by recreating the parks, as well as all the murders that took place, and by leaving a trail of bread.
I'm sorry, I got cut off. I was too invested. I'm sorry.
Broadside and Mark treated Cogware Games. Anyone that got their hands on this game would be able to figure out what happened, and it would likely mean the end of Mark and Broadside. That could have been where the story ended. A scorned developer taking revenge on a man that ruined his career. However, the game keeps going. There's a demo for a game that you have to download and play to unlock more codes, which, can I just say, is insane for an ARG video game. It's one thing to link to web pages and YouTube videos like we've been doing throughout this game, but to create essentially a second game just to hide a few codes? I tip my hat to you, sir. Truly inspired. But thanks to that demo, we now have access to the final layer, Layer 5. At this point, we are introduced to a new character, a character that the game describes as made of wood and cloth, except it can move and even speak.
Thought I was the only one rotting down here.
I did not see you at all the last time I remember.
I need you to find me. If you do as I ask, you'll know everything. Every single detail of what happened.
You are speaking my language, weird statue-looking thing. And so our last task is to find this thing 10 times on the original island.
Not gonna lie, this is giving me some goosebumps. This is some Halloween stuff.
With a final audio log that shows the meeting between Connor and Mark, where Mark shut down the whole thing, leading Connor to create that earlier audio log and take over the project, to reveal the truth about Broadside. But sadly, his revenge didn't seem to fix anything. We end up in a final tunnel that leads to a balcony. The only option is for us to jump off it, and by doing so, we cut to real footage of a real balcony, as well as a statement from Cogware Games. Connor took his own life. We get some slides reminding us that when these details inside the game were found, the game was pulled from store shelves. Connor's efforts were once again going to be covered up by Broadside, likely pinned on him as a rogue indie game developer trying to slander their good name, just like we've seen time and time again in other indie franchises.
The majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
And with that, knowing he couldn't do anything to stop them, and with his own reputation destroyed, Connor jumped off the balcony, leaving behind nothing but a broken family, a broken game, and his own personal calling card. An NPC wolf hidden inside the glitches of the game that someone might one day find. And that, my friends, is the sad but incredible story of Shipwrecked 64. The story of a studio turned theme park attraction that was responsible for the deaths of dozens of people, only for them to cover up the entire thing to keep their success going. It's a story of a CEO who appeared to be ruled by greed, cutting corners, staging cover-ups, and firing a game studio that was genuinely just trying to make a good product. But it turns out it wasn't greed, it was love. Mark was desperate to save his partner. They needed life-saving care, but as is often the case, the cost was just too much. So he did the only thing he could, cut off the game studio funding, only for them to reveal to the world all the tragedies his company had caused and tried to hide. He tried to stop it, but after all these years, the truth has finally been revealed. In the end, both sides ended up losing. What an incredibly powerful story and an incredible gaming experience.
Clap it up.
However, while I feel really good about the answers we come to today, I can't help but feel there's more that I'm missing. I know that there's a bunch of posters and audio recordings we didn't get to mention simply due to time, but even still, despite the length of this video and the hours I've spent playing the game, I actually think I've only scratched the surface. We still don't understand why Bucky's actor went on a murder spree. If this game is designed to be a recreation of the real island, then what are the dwellers about? We saw enough pictures of these nightmarish characters, so where do they fit into all of this? And what's the truth behind that weird wooden entity we chased around the island at the end? I know the answers to those questions do exist. However, it's gonna have to wait until next time, because to fully understand them, we're going to have to venture beyond just the game and into the deep lore that hides in documentaries, demos, and ARGs that are all present on the developer's YouTube channel. So if you are interested in getting those answers, let me know down in the comments. And of course, make sure you're subscribed so that when the video does drop, you don't miss it. In the meantime...
Hey man, you're right. You guys know it. I know it. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, so that way when I do the reaction video on it, you can come along with me and we go as shocked as possible. And cause, oh no. And what's worse is that I know I had the notes. True story, actually. I had the notes. I knew about Shipwrecked 64 and I had notes, but I know my notes had some sort of, some sort of information that was left out here. I know there was a reason why there's a person who was wearing that Bucky costume, but still.
Friends, remember, that's just a theory.
Oh man. But yeah, that's Shipwrecked 64. I'm not gonna lie. It might beat FNAF. I'm sorry. Okay, I know I'm FNAF's I know I'm known as the FNAF guy, but dang. Well, I'm not really the FNAF guy, but whew. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to see we're definitely going to see part 2. But anyways, make sure you like the video so I know you guys enjoy. Comment down below what you guys think about Shipwreck 64. Shipwreck 64. Honestly, I think it is brutal, to be honest. It's brutal. And subscribe. We're trying to upload daily. This is 1Gamer54, signing off.